Mike Gundy just got fired, and that is nightmare fuel for the Baylor Bears.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart, and of course, joining me on this Wednesday, they don't call it Wicker Wednesday for nothing. Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 is here. And peek behind the curtain, guys, when we are recording this is fresh breaking news. Oklahoma State has fired one of their all-time icons in Mike Gundy just days before they take on the Baylor Bears. And a lot of Baylor fans will remember just how bad that can be. We will also talk about the winners and losers in Week 4 in the Big 12. And then Sawyer Robertson, a little bit maligned the last 2 weeks, but is he still among the very, very elite in college football when the money is on the table? We'll talk about all that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. But Sydney, there is no other place to start. This is breaking news. It's still breaking on a Wednesday morning because we're still trying to process this, I'm sure. But days ahead of their matchup with Baylor, Oklahoma State has fired Mike Gundy after 21 seasons. It shouldn't feel like a surprise with how things have gone recently, but this still feels kind of shocking.
It's always shocking anytime a legend leaves the game for whatever reason, whether he's fired, retires, whatever. Like when Nick Saban retired, that was breaking news. That was huge. Yep. And it took a while to grasp that. Same with Coach Gundy, a guy who, is from Oklahoma State, like had so much history there and did a lot while he was there, or the winningest coach while he was there. So just crazy news, shocking as always. No matter how bad or how good they are, whenever a firing happens, it always does feel surprising. And, considering how Oklahoma State has been, I understand needing to make a change and having to do what you have to do for your program, but just crazy timing. This is all happening the week that Baylor just so happens to be playing them.
It's just like, of course it is the week that Baylor's playing them. I said it earlier this week. I was like, could you just wait 1 week and just fire him next week? Because I've seen this happen, man. Like 2021 was not that long ago, especially when it comes to how we think of Dave Aranda. Was not that long ago, okay? And Baylor had a great team, and they go into a Big 12 game where the other team's legendary coach, like this is so similar, gets fired that week, and TCU uses the bump from the Gary Patterson firing. They do have a very qualified interim in Jerry Kill, and they use it to rally the troops and upset Baylor and kind of make their season in one game. That kind of scenario is lining up exactly the same for Oklahoma State this weekend. Like, I can't help but be afraid of it, Sydney, because I was there and living it. You is a little bit more objective than me. Like, is that something that Baylor fans should worry about? Like, this Oklahoma State team's awful.
I mean, I always worry about it anytime there's any unfamiliarity there. Like, you should never just feel like, oh, this is an easy dub. Like, let's walk in there and see what happens. I think Oklahoma State's always going to be a tough place to play in general, and a tough place to compete. And when you have a lot of unknown and a group of guys, you're going to see one of two things. You're either going to see everybody throwing in the towel and saying whatever it is, what it is, or you're going to see a group that's more motivated than ever. And that motivation, that itch, that hunger, whatever it is, that can be so hard to shut down momentum-wise. So Baylor's going to have to really lock in and really come into this one more prepared than probably they thought they maybe needed to if this was Monday conversation. It is a really struggling Oklahoma State team. It's not good over there right now, but I don't think that ever takes away from talent, grit, and heart and all those things that can surprise you. So I'm nervous now. This news made me nervous. I wasn't really before, but this made me nervous.
And unlike most other programs that would, if they went through this same thing, like That place is going to be packed on Saturday. It
Yeah.
was, I think, a sellout or close to it against Tulsa on a Friday night, and they lost. Like this is going to be, and to your point, like Gundy's been there forever, and he is Oklahoma State. Like at this point, he is that football program. So all these guys, I'm leaning towards, are probably going to rally around the fact that they're playing, kind of for their coach in a weird way. Of course, they didn't really do it last week when the coach's job was probably on the line still anyway. But like that is, I think, going to motivate them big time. But the fall of this program, it's been a hot button topic recently about the fall of Baylor's program, but Oklahoma State doesn't have an 8-4 from last year to go off of. Since making the 2023 Big 12 championship game, which obviously they lost to UT, 4-11 since then. Like, we're not talking worse than the Big 12. We're talking one of the worst teams in all of college football since the start of last season. This probably needed to happen. I just wish it happened next week. And I think there's a subsect of Oklahoma State fans that were hoping it happened next week because, Sydney, it's important to note here. They've played 3 games. Baylor's played 4, but Oklahoma State, on my count, is 1-2. So they have played 3. That means these guys can, in fact, take a red shirt right now and leave the team. Like that is a huge, huge deal when you're looking at not only this game, but certainly the rest of the season for Oklahoma State. Do you think that was like a bad move to not wait until after the red shirt thing was up?
100%. I think a
it's
lot
of
of
the players, but you do have to think of it as a program here, right?
Yeah. I think there's so many people. I mean, the reason Alabama had so much success for so long is because people wanted to play for Nick Saban. When you know of a legendary head coach, like you want to say that you played for them. And I think that's why Oklahoma State, a lot of players were there because they wanted to play for him, regardless on if they maybe showed that when his job was on the line on Friday or not. Like it's still something I think a lot of people take pride in talking about later on in their careers and even in the moment. So not waiting one extra week. Yeah, that I think we could easily see the downfall of Oklahoma State from here on out and it just continuing to spiral and get worse.
Yeah, like that. Excuse me. That could be crushing, man. Like, especially in this era that we're talking about right now, where it's so easy to move schools. Obviously, not necessarily this season, but you could transfer to a school and start with their spring ball, right? Yep. It wouldn't. I mean, it would be wild in the moment, but you could see dozens, if not scores, of Oklahoma State football players leaving the program this week. So, like, that could happen, but I'm worried, Sydney. I remember 2021 so distinctly, man. I'm worried about that, man.
And I'm glad you brought that up because obviously I wasn't covering Baylor at that time. That wasn't something at the time I'm sure I saw it, but like I can't say I remember it right now. But I just think it's scary anytime you go into anything with not being familiar with it or you could be surprised by anything. I just don't like it. So it definitely makes me more nervous. I still like Baylor in this game. I just don't know if Oklahoma State has it to flip the script. I think Baylor just has so much talent in general, and they are such a good team. I think they're going to be so ready to prove something on Saturday.
This is a good spot to do it. This is a good spot to do 100%. It. It's not a big home game, which is what you really need to prove at some point here, but And most of the country won't look at it as like, oh, great, you beat Oklahoma State. Like Oregon beat them by 66 points, But I think within that locker room, you'll say, we got a little bit of an adversity in a game where we shouldn't have had any adversity, and we overcame it. That doesn't mean you're going to win the Big 12 or anything, but I think that does do something in that locker room. So, wow, Mike Gundy will not be coaching the Oklahoma State Cowboys this weekend when the Baylor Bears head up to Stillwater. This thing just got a heck of a lot more interesting. I will say that. When we come back, we will talk about the winners and losers from the Big 12 in Week 4. Is Baylor finally going to make this list on the loser side? Maybe. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by that very bad editing job I just did and by Mazda. Okay, you guys know about now, like when we talk about our athletes, it's all in the details. That's what Mazda is doing as well. They craft cars for those who do more than simply move. Okay, they deliver confidence with every ride. More IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. You can feel that Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our favorite players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Now, when I say this, most of you don't know what's going on in those accounts of yours, right? Most people can't name their financial accounts or what they're worth, the 401ks, the properties, or the investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Probably exactly what you're watching or listening to the show on right now. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is here for you. They do the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes. You can see clear data visuals, smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Boy, that really is right up my alley. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Back here on Locked On Baylor on a Wicker Wednesday. Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 joining. Man, still recovering from this Mike Gundy news, and Baylor having to go against a Gundy-less Oklahoma State team. I've never seen Baylor play a Gundy-less Oklahoma State team. In fact, I've never seen a Gundy-less Oklahoma State team. I wasn't quite tuned into college football in 2004. Mostly baseball back then for me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the winners and losers in the Big 12 this week. Very interesting. We could have picked them all from just two games. We could have, but spoiler alert. Well, we kind of did. Anyway, Sydney, who do you have as your winner this week in the Big 12?
My winner this week has to be Texas Tech. I think they had one of the toughest tests for all the teams playing starting conference action last week, playing on the road at Utah. And when it was a really close back and forth game with not a whole lot of offense, they really found something that worked for them there in the fourth quarter, being able to put up 20 points in the fourth quarter alone. I think it was like 24 if I remember correctly. Yep. Yeah. Huge performance for them. They've been a scary team all season, and I think they really made their statement as one of the top dogs of the conference in that game.
Yeah, they needed to prove it. Yeah. We needed to see them knock off a legit opponent. That was a legit opponent. And again, it's eerily similar actually to what we saw last year at the end of September when Oklahoma State played Utah. And we were like, whoever wins this could win the conference. And they both ended up sucking. So Utah beat UCLA, which Oklahoma State might give them a good game. Like they might actually beat them. So that's not very much to write home about at this point. I'm saying that to say Utah could still stink. They could. But right now, that was a top 20 matchup on the road in a top 20 matchup kind of atmosphere. I'll say that. And Tech got it done with the Hamburglar, man. Will Hammond off the bench gets to do it. That's a pretty good winner for this week, I would say, Sydney.
Yeah, it had to. It had to be.
As much as we might not want to say it on Locked On Baylor, it did have to be.
Yeah.
Your loser for this week?
My loser for this week. Please don't kill me, Baylor fans. I know. That was a winnable game against Arizona State. I'm sorry.
It's tough to argue with this, Sydney. It's tough to argue with you here.
I know. I don't ever want Baylor to be my loser. But that game, it was tough. I think when you finally saw a really good Baylor defense step up when you needed it, offense just really couldn't find their spark or get into rhythm. Obviously, Arizona State has a really talented defense with so many returners from last year on it, but I still feel like Baylor was the better team in that game. And it just, to not be able to execute there at home in the final stretch wasn't a good look. And now I would hope that that doesn't bleed into the rest of the season, but it very well could be. And that's just, the vibes were very down afterwards, after the game in the locker room, just between talking to players and Coach Aranda, you could just feel that it stung. So now if they want to be a winner, they're really going to have to charge back and to prove themselves really from here on. And I think they kind of like that, having their backs against the wall. I don't know if it's something they want, but it seems like they play well when they've got the pressure. So it's kind of must win from here on out for the Bears.
It does definitely feel that way. And your loser is going to go into my winner in kind of more ways than one, because my winner is Arizona State. But I think when you look at this loss for Baylor, again, winnable game, home game, could have sent quite a statement. Like, if you win that game, let's play that game. If you win against Arizona State, you're 3-1, people are looking at you around the country and they're saying, okay, got one of the best quarterbacks in America. Okay, they've got a real legit offense. Maybe the defense is coming together here. They've lost one game. It was to Auburn, who's still solid. Like, that's a team that was in the rankings last week. They lost to Auburn at home, but they beat SMU, a college football playoff team from last year. They beat the defending Big 12 champs and college football playoff team from last year in Arizona State. And then they're probably going to win the next two, and they're 5-1, and you're feeling really good about where Baylor's at nationally. But instead, they lose in a game that was very winnable, that comes down to a turnover battle that you got your butts kicked in. And where it leads back into my winner here is Arizona State still not ranked this week. We only received 30 votes. They just went in on the road and beat Baylor, and they only got 30 votes. So that shows you kind of the point I was just making.
Yep.
The reputation's not there for this Baylor team. It's not. Whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise, it's not there. So that changes a lot on the outlook, the national outlook of your season by losing that game. But credit to Arizona State. That's why they're my winner this week. Did I think they looked like the better team than Baylor? No, I didn't. I didn't think there was any point in that game where I was like, damn, man, this is getting away from Baylor. Like, this is not good. The way I did against Auburn, the way I did against SMU in a game that they won.
Yeah.
Arizona State made it happen. They forced turnovers. That's, as much as Baylor gave it away, Arizona State forced 3 turnovers, and they came with a game-winning drive to set up a field goal to win the thing. So that's huge. That's a team that was hit in the mouth a couple weeks ago against Mississippi State, and not a lot of people were rating Mississippi State all that high, even though they beat Arizona State. They were like, "Ooh, man, that's a terrible loss for ASU," rather than a big win for Jeff Lebby. So that absolutely puts them back on the path of potentially winning this conference.
Yeah. By the way, they were my losers after that loss. So
yeah. And I will give a shout out to, like, it was tough to pick Arizona State as the winner over TCU, whom,
for sure.
I mean, that's a big win, winning the Iron Skillet. And then that's a humongous matchup this Friday, Sydney. This Friday, they will be playing. I can't believe that's
a Friday game, by the way.
Hate that for everyone involved.
Me too.
That, once again, could be a dress rehearsal for the Big 12 championship game. Those outside of Tech, those look like 2 of the next 3 teams, with Iowa State obviously mixed in there. My loser this week is Utah. I mean, yeah, I could have gone West Virginia, but just because I didn't think they would be blown out like that. My winner could have been UCF, but North Carolina looks like an FCS team. It's tough.
It's not good.
And then nobody else lost but Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, sure, they're losers, of course, but at least Utah had an expectation to win this game and have a winning season. Oklahoma State might be the winners this week after firing Mike Gundy. Who knows? But definitely Utah hyped themselves up, and their fan base knew that they hadn't really played anybody yet, and that Tech was having to come into their house, and Tech doesn't play defense, and we're going to shut down, make Baron Morton look look normal, and they did kind of make Baron Morton look normal, and then he got hurt, and then Will Hammond came in and sliced and diced him, and they gave up 24 points in the fourth quarter on their home field. I'm sorry. That's a loser of the week kind of stuff right there. They lost 34-10 at home. Like, that's loser stuff. That's loser of the week. At least we only lost by 3. So it all comes from 2 games, and we said it. Those were going to be the 2 big games of last week, Tech versus Utah and Arizona State versus Baylor, and that's how it shakes out. And what's weird to think is Baylor, now 2-2, just lost a game because they turned the ball over too many times, and they lost on a walk-off field goal. So how is it then that Sawyer Robertson is still the most clutch quarterback in America? We'll tell you why coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Let's see how that line moves. It was 20.5, minus 20.5 to Baylor in a conference game on the road. But now Oklahoma State's fired Mike Gundy. And now also the NFL season is here. And FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I like using it because it fits really whatever vibe I want to do that day, however I want to bet. Player props, same game parlay, jumping in live as the action unfolds and seeing and feeling my hunch and going for it. FanDuel's got it all. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by using FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Cam Stuart here. Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 on a Wicker Wednesday here on Locked On Baylor. Sawyer Robertson, probably our most talked about topic of the last year, I would say.
How could it not be?
I don't even know what would be a very distant second. Maybe Scott Drew. I don't even know if it's Dave Aranda. You know what I mean? Like we might have to go down a couple of rungs here. But Sawyer Robertson, clearly the face of this team right now. And I know we said it like before the season, 2-2 would not have been the end of the world. And it's not the end of the world, but like, we don't feel that great about a 2-2 right now, do we, Sydney? Like I don't, again, I'm not pushing the panic button necessarily, but I am giving out an ultimatum to Dave Aranda, which I did on yesterday's show. So maybe I am.
Yeah, 2-2, not the position they wanted to be in, of course, but it just felt like that loss against Arizona State was like life-sucking. Like it really.
That's what it felt like. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it took out so much from this team who, like, I didn't feel that way after they lost to Auburn. Like, it didn't feel like that loss stung as bad as it does right now. But I'm still not out on this team. I'm still not out on Sawyer. It's going to take a lot, and I'm afraid that Oklahoma State game is going to be a lot closer than people want it to be just because of it. I don't want to think about it. We'll get there when it's Saturday. Yeah. But Sawyer's he's still Sawyer.
That's the thing, is you're still getting elite quarterback play. You're still leading the nation in passing yards. And, you know, the one win over an FBS team so far this season was in double overtime. And you could see that and say, well, could they beat anybody? They have one FBS win. It was double overtime. Or you could see it as, man, Sawyer really carried them in that game. And when you look at the numbers in the fourth quarter, Sydney, it is gross in the best kind of way. Tweeted this out from the Locked On Baylor account. In the fourth quarter this year, Sawyer Robertson, 69%, very nice completion percentage, 353 yards, 6 touchdowns to no picks with a 196 rating. And in games decided by one score, which is 2 of them this year, he's thrown for 690 yards with a 7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I said he could well be the most clutch quarterback in college football. Do you agree with that? Or do you think 2-2 is just too glaring?
No, I agree with it. I think other than the Arizona State game, there's really not a lot of other quarterbacks I would want in a situation where it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Like, Sawyer has this unique ability of really being able to put the team on his back. He's so calm. That 2-minute drill against SMU tells you everything about Sawyer.
Goosebumps.
goosebumps. It was
I still got it.
crazy, and of course they talked about how much they've practiced that and stuff, but it was so natural. He never looked rattled in a moment that had so much nerves and anxiety. Like, I was biting my nails and I had no part of that game, but it was just so crazy. And he just has that calm composure all the time and such a leader on and off the field in every way possible. I don't know if I'll ever be out on Sawyer and the quarterback that he is.
It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. And he just, in the fourth quarter, like I said, if there's anybody better to be in a situation, it's Sawyer. And when you play in the Big 12 and you've got a tough slate against any and every single team that you play, Sawyer's the guy that you want in those situations.
And maybe that makes it more frustrating that they're 2-2. Maybe that just adds to the anxiety of it, is you've gotten such elite quarterback play. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Is Sawyer one of, if not the most clutch quarterback in America, or does that record just do a little bit too much for you on the negative side of things? Sydney, this is a first in Locked On Baylor history, what we're about to do.
Okay.
For the first time in, albeit the brief history of Locked On Baylor trivia, we have run into a situation where the question yesterday and the answer yesterday was true at the time, but is no longer true. Okay? To give a little hint on what the answer is. So the question was this: Kirk Ferentz is the longest tenured active college coach at his current school. What two Big 12 coaches are tied for second on that list? Billy Love, 30-33, got it. Can you give me one, Sydney?
Coach Gundy.
Mike Gundy, no longer on the list. The other, Utah coach Kyle Whittingham. Both came in 2004. So those were the two. Billy Love, 30-33, who's been on the podium a couple of times, got it right once again. So now, man, I thought by Monday, if they hadn't fired him, that they weren't going to. But I guess Tuesday's not the end of the world, right? It's just a little odd. And Cody Stovall was on the Big 12 Squad show with us on our new Sunday show, which you guys can check out Sunday, 11 a.m. Central Time, to recap the weekend in games. He said it could be Sunday, and then it didn't happen. And I was like, okay, so it's probably going to be next week. And then it didn't, which does lead us into today's trivia question. And that is this: who was the last Oklahoma State coach not named Mike Gundy to beat the Baylor Bears? Let me know in the comment section below. As you guys know, it is first one to get it in the YouTube comments or tweet it at us at Locked On Baylor is going to get a shout out on next week's episode. Sydney knows the answer. I guarantee you Sydney knows the answer. Unlike Pete Souza, who tried to yell it out on the air on Friday, and then I finally begged him to just wait till after we got off the air to not spoil it, and then he got it wrong. So Sydney is not that. She's got it right.
No.
So let us know.
I will keep my composure too and not even give any hints, because we want the viewers to get all the shout outs.
Thank you for being a pro. Thank you for being a pro like that. I will give one hint in that he did coach at another Big 12 school afterwards. So that's an interesting one. People might forget that. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you once again for joining us here on this Wicker Wednesday. Really appreciate it, Sydney, as always.
Best day of the week. Couldn't miss it.
But you're right in the thick of it, man. You are right in the thick of it in football season. So glad you could still make that time. And thank you guys for tuning in and making it your first listen today and every day. We're going to talk all Oklahoma State Cowboys tomorrow. So start filtering in your Wednesday predictions for Saturday in the comment section below. And if they're subject to change, that's okay. We will see you on the next edition of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.